Welcome to our session today. This is part of the Coaching Supervision training. Today, as the last Thursday of the month, we have a demonstration. We have a couple of more demonstrations, and then the program is going to be finished in November. Time flies. So today we have with us Paul Sanbar, who is a graduate from one of our programs from cohort 7, if I am right. And cohort 7 had a lot of stars in the supervision community. And it's great to have you, Paul, here again. Paul is also one of the facilitators of the triads for the program. So some of you have been working with him. And next month for the demonstration, we're going to have Lily. Lily is going to be doing a magic box demonstration. So the idea is that in this program, by now, participants, you have all the foundations. You have seen other people demonstrating supervision. You have seen different people doing this, can be done in many different ways. And now in the last sessions, we have a supervisor doing demonstration using creativity and using techniques. The idea is that in supervision, as in coaching, we can be very creative. So today we are going to see how we can apply Mural to supervision. And here we have a couple of coaches too. So for the coaches who are joining us today, you can apply this to your work as coaches. The same thing in a month from now when Lily presents on the magic box. Magic box is also a technique that can be applied in coaching, in supervision, and can be done in individual or in group settings. So since we are exploring group supervision in the program, Paul is going to work with the group today, and Lily too next month. These are our last demonstrations for the program. So I want to welcome, we have here participants of the program, graduates from the program, and some guests and some graduates from the coaching program. So everybody who's here, welcome. Great to have you here today. What we are going to do is Paul is going to be doing a demonstration. He's going to share a recording. And by the way, for all of the participants of the program, you are invited in the future to do also demos to share with the future groups. So we are starting with cohort 15 next month. And we have so far 12 participants from all over the world. So you're all welcome for their demos. And this is going to start the last Tuesday of the month. They're meeting on Tuesday, 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 7 Eastern Standard Time. So it's a time that is difficult for Europe because it's more focused on Asia. So we had like 4 participants from China, Malaysia, India, to an interesting group. And you are all welcome also to join us the last Tuesday of the month at 4 p.m. This is going to be starting in October because the program starts in September and the demos starts in October. So that will be another space to join us. So before we start, Paul, I want to share a 2-minute video. This video was prepared by a professional for a graduate from the program, Jeff Nellin. Jeff was in the cohort 2, was one of the first cohorts, the first cohort in English. So he has been very active. He has been facilitating a group, helping supervisors to build their practices. So this is part of what he has been doing as part of the American Coaching Supervisors Network. And he put together a 2-minute video that I want to share with you. And my goal to share this video with you is for 2 reasons. First, you may use this video to explain people what is supervision, or you may come up with your own video. And I do have one in my website, but I want to share with you his, so you can get a sense of how he presents supervision to into his future possible candidate. No, this is not what I want. Let me see what's happening here. For some reason, not letting me, the technology, let's see now. Okay, here we go. Starting. I cannot believe this. I don't know what's happening, but it's not working. If I refresh page.
Do coaches need to be supervised? Well, you don't need a supervisor looking over your shoulder, monitoring all of your coaching sessions. If that's what you're thinking, then no, it's not that kind of supervision. But as coaches, we need growth and development beyond coach training skills and mentor coaching. Coaching supervision is a collaborative partnership where a coach brings the coaching experiences he or she has with a client to a trained and certified coaching supervisor to reflect and gain perspective. The purpose is to help the coach learn and grow and to be an even better coach to the client. Where mentor coaching is focused on coaching skills and demonstrating the coaching competencies, coaching supervision is about the surprises, the challenges, or the curiosities a coach experiences with a client. It's like standing on top of a mountain, looking across the entire landscape of the coaching experience with a client and seeing it with supervision. Or like standing in the middle of a 360-degree cinema and reviewing the coach-client experience from every point of view, looking at things from multiple angles to see what the coach can learn. The coach and the coaching supervisor examine relationships like what's happening between the coach and the client, relationships with other stakeholders in the client's world, including their team or manager or organization. What's occurring between the coach and the coaching supervisor is also examined. And all of this occurs in the safe, confidential relationship between professional coaching peers, the coach and the coaching supervisor. Unlike a typical coaching session, the coach and the supervisor may also share relevant experiences, examples, and offer guidance to each other to deepen their reflection. I'm Jeff Nally, and I'm a coaching supervisor to coaches around the world. If you're ready to reflect, to grow as a coach, and get even better results with your clients, I'm ready to guide you to the top of your coaching mountain to see the super vision of your coaching.
Okay, any reactions, observations? Anybody want to share? What do you think about this video?
I think excellently done, very short, but covered everything need to be said.
Yeah, very professional. It's done by a
Very
professional.
professional. Very nicely done. Very nicely done.
Yeah.
I know Jeff because he's in Coach Source and he's like that. He's authentic, so you can see really his spirit and how much he loves supervision, and I like that concept of being on the mountains and being supervision everything. So yeah,
I really like the message. I think it's clear, and I want to encourage people, everybody here, to consider having your own version. So I have one in English and one in Spanish. So for my colleagues here who speak Spanish, I will share that with you later, so you can go and see. It was also done professionally, but I think that his is much nicer. So I want to encourage everybody to consider that, okay, how you're going to be presenting supervision. And we have here graduates from the program too, so I want to invite you also to consider that. I do believe it's a good strategy. And with that, Paul, we are ready for you. So what you want to say about you? What I can say briefly about Paul is that I met him at ICF Los Angeles, so he's a neighbor, but now he's living half of time in Las Vegas, so not all the time. And he was very involved with ICF Los Angeles chapter. He was one of the leaders of the chapter for a few years. We're still involved with them. And you have been very creative in terms of working with Lego. Paul inspired me to go and get trained as a Lego, it's not, what is called the certification to work with Lego in my work to bring creativity to the work of coaching and supervision. So we have done sessions on that too in the past, and they are available in YouTube. So if you go to YouTube and look for Paul, you can find some of his sessions doing coaching and supervision using Lego, which is pretty creative. And what else, Paul, would you like people to know about you?
I'm honored to be here and share. And what I can briefly say, and I see some very familiar faces. Some of you may have heard me even say this before, but over the last few years, last year in particular, as I jokingly like to say, nobody wanted to play with my Legos for for one specific reason, which we don't need to delve into. But what it forced me to do is to think a little differently about how I still had a passion for hands-on thinking and engaging with play and with creativity, with my coaching, and of course with my supervision. And so over the last few years, I with necessity being the mother of invention, I learned a new way of engaging people visually and with hands-on thinking. And I'm excited to share Mural, the digital whiteboard facilitation tool that you're going to see in a little bit, and also let you know that there are many other ways, not as technologically advanced, to use visual thinking, hands-on thinking to engage our clients, whether they're coaching clients or supervisees, to engage their whole self, not just their thinking self, but their full-bodied self. And I say that using my hand because you'll see in a bit that during the demo, people are going to be moving objects and moving things around with their hands. And I think that when we're doing that, we're really engaging our full selves. And so I'm excited to share all of that with you. I've kind of started the presentation, so I'm gonna just keep going if that's okay.
Okay, great.
Okay. So once again, my name is Paul Sanbar. I'm honored to be here and to share a demo, a group supervision demo with you in just a moment. Before we do that, I want to tell you a little bit about the background about this work that I do. Hopefully it will excite you to want to lean in and try some different tools and experiment. Quite honestly, what you're going to see is a continued experiment. And as we know, when we work with our clients, so much is about experimentation and trying something new and reflecting on how it goes and learning from the experience. That is what we're all doing. We're all working in this way, and what you will see next is more of the same. But I also want to get all of you involved. And so I'm going to start off sharing the screen. I'm going to share what will initially look like a PowerPoint presentation, but it is actually the Mural. And Mural, I will say more about it, but just a thumbs up. Everybody's able to see the shared screen. I want to make sure. Okay. So what you're actually looking at is one digital whiteboard, and it is no longer white. There are a lot of colors popping off the page, and that's the first thing that you see is just the color and the vibrancy of the work that we do. So much of that vibrancy it goes on behind our mind's eyes, and what I like to do is to facilitate the process of moving those images, the vibrancy of the words and the colors that we see and feel onto the visual surface. Now that so much of our work is done digitally, connecting with our clients, connecting with the group in this case is such an integral part of the experience. And when we are able to see what we are thinking, we are able to collaborate and connect deeper together. And so I'm going to pan back into this first slide. A Chinese proverb, always like to start a session with just some thinking around this idea. But now I'm going to actually have you do a bit of a preflection. One of the wonderful words that I learned in the course of getting my certification with Damien is this idea that we can think about our thinking and even preflect on our thinking. So what I want you to do is to think for a moment. Some of you, I'm going to actually engage with me visually. And so as I share this preflection, I want you to think about this. So I encourage you to imagine as if we were making an infographic of our learning today, an artifact of our experience using this new age hieroglyphic, if you will. And the thought that I want you to have is, if in some time from now, high-tech geologists were to unearth this mural, what might it depict about who you are becoming as a supervisor when you are engaging your clients with your whole self? Think about that preflection. What symbols would you see if you could maybe take some of those words and those feelings and apply an image to it? Damian mentioned that next month you're going to have an opportunity to learn and see how Lily does the metaphor magic box, and in some of my work with Lily, she's allowed me to take some of that work, if you've seen it before, and apply it in a virtual digital sense. And so you actually see here some charms up and down on the screen. And I'm going to go back to this question. Who are you becoming as a supervisor when you're engaging your clients with your whole self? Now go ahead and look at those charms. Maybe one is calling out to you, maybe two are calling out to you. And I'm going to challenge somebody in the group here to come off of mute and tell me which charm or charms are speaking to you at the moment. And I'm going to move them into one of these boxes. One of these boxes, this one box, think of it as all 7 eyes, your entire system. So you and your client and everything is involved in that one box. Who would like to come off of mute and share which one or two charms, and allow me to ask you a few follow-up questions? Everybody at the same time.
Hi, Paul. This is Anushli.
Anushli, yeah?
The angel with the heart.
The angel. Okay. I'm gonna start you off here. So one charm, or do you have multiple charms?
This spiral below the seahorse.
Yes. Okay. Below the spiral. All right. Okay. So tell me, just communicate to me, and I'm going to arrange them in the square that represents what the story you're telling yourself. So I want you to, through me, we're going to create this visual representation of what you are seeing. Where is the spiral? Where is the angel?
So I see that a more compassionate relationship being built.
Let me pause you for 1 second.
Okay.
Before we get into that, thank that you're right on track. Should I have the spiral be on this side? What is the story? How is it arranged?
Okay.
We think in linear terms, even though we create.
So the spiral happens first.
Okay.
The spiral leads me to the angel.
All right. And so before we go on, any colors that are coming up for you as you imagine these two images? I can change both. I can change one color. Anything that represents this story you're about to tell us.
So the spiral, I get black and gold.
Black and gold. Did you say?
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna try something new here. Let's see. How about that? All right. And the angel and heart. Any color or hue that has
Pink.
meaning? Pink. Thank you so much, Anushli. Okay. Is that an okay pink? I can change it darker, lighter.
I see only the heart with the pink and the angel in whatever the color. I know it cannot be changed, right? In that,
Okay.
right? Okay, no problem.
Thank you. Yeah, for the sake of time. Okay, so you created this image. I'm excited. No doubt everyone else is excited to see and feel what you are thinking. So tell us a little bit about what you've created.
So I see that I sit with the client thinking that I know it, and in the more of explorative state, I'm getting to the spiral
Mm,
and going deeper, going to some dark places
mm,
and being enlightened. That's where the yellow light comes, like the brightening up,
mm.
and that makes me kind of an angel.
Ah,
And uh, love and compassion need flow is existing in that relationship. That's why I brought the angel and the heart there. So it's more
yeah,
of a heart to heart work that's happening. But I think it's not just only the client, even I as a supervisor get into these spirals.
yeah.
And the interesting thing is, I might think in this conversation that I have found the aha, but when I sit again for another conversation, again I go back to the spiral from where I started, and I
Mm.
come up with another aha.
It just keeps building on itself. If we were to keep talking, we'd keep adding more and more spirals. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Yeah, I keep going inside and coming out,
Wow.
inside and coming out. So that there's no like absolute truth is what I have realized. The
Yeah.
truth keeps changing.
Thank you so much, Anus. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. We have time for one more. Anybody else would anybody else like to share? You can if you had the same charms, you're free to use those as well, or any other charms, because what Anusli created with those charms may be completely different than what you might create with in your mind's eye with the same exact charms. But any other ones, anybody else like to come off of mute before we move on?
I'd like to.
Cookie, yeah.
So I thought the world, the globe,
Sure.
and the eye.
And the eye, okay. And so is that it?
The elephant also.
Okay. All right. So yeah, how can I maneuver this around? I can change the size, right? We can make the eye big, we can make the eye small. It really depends on what you are seeing with your mind's eye. So how can I maneuver these charms around within this square to represent what is coming up for you?
So on top of where it is, the eye should be maybe bigger. That's a
Okay.
good suggestion.
Okay. How's that?
That's perfect. And then the globe can stay that size, and the elephant maybe, yeah, also that looks kind of symmetric there.
Okay. And what about any colors that are coming up for you? Any hues?
So
that
the
maybe-
globe might be blue,
Okay.
an ocean blue. That I think is purple.
Okay.
Mm.
Are you like a seafoam blue?
Yeah, something like
All
that.
right.
That's good. And then the eye, interesting. Huh. The eye might be also a deeper blue, maybe.
Okay.
I wanted to say red, but then it becomes red eye, and that's not the image.
Well, but if whatever means for you. Yeah.
Yeah. And the elephant a little bit lighter, maybe a grayish.
Sure. Okay. So as you change the size, as you change the colors arrange this, what are you seeing when with respect to who you are becoming as a supervisor?
So the I represent, of course, the globe represents my work as an interculturalist and coaching globally. And the I is curiosity. I'm always trying to learn and opening my eyes and my ears to things I encounter. And this has been, I've always been this way. So I'm always pushing myself to learn more and to understand how I can be a better trainer or coach, or how I can better support people in their paths. And the globe is very, I'm what you call a third culture kid, but so the globe is an important part of my identity. And so next month I'm moving to Portugal. So right now that's really on my mind. And to start new there. So the elephant represents loyalty and memory, and the memory of lives past and how we take care of each other in a pack. And so there's a profound sense of movement always, of transitions. And the I also reflects on how I watch the transitions and how I resolve and keep on being productive and creative.
Yeah, thank you. Thank
And
you.
the elephant is survival, actually, and resilience.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, thank you, Cookie. Thank you, Anusli. So what you are seeing here is some reflection in action of what may have occurred before, what's coming up for them. If you can imagine using this in more of a supervision session or even a coaching session where they might come with an idea of what they are seeing, and then through our facilitation of asking questions and delving deeper, images may move, they may change size, they may even duplicate or change colors, and it's this idea of engaging what, like I've been saying, what may be happening behind our eyes to actually see. And that allows the facilitator to continue to develop and ask further questions about what we are now seeing together. And so thank you for allowing me to share in this way. We're going to continue on. I'm going to briefly just explain a little bit about the rest of what we're going to do today. We spend a little bit more time telling you how I've learned how to experiment and use this tool with supervision. So we did our pre-flexion. So what exactly is Mural? If you haven't used it or seen it before, it's a digital workspace that allows for visual collaboration and communication for people to think together. It's used mostly in the design world for thinking sprints or retroflective or design sprints, excuse me. But people are using it more and more, and like I said, I've had a passion for using it in some ways, but my passion is coaching and supervision. So I work to try to figure out how I can use this in small groups and even individually. And now I'm gonna tell you a little bit more about I've been sharing already quite a bit about why this method isn't so intriguing to me, and why you might be able to, why you might consider using some hands-on thinking in your work. So first off, we are multimodal creatures, right? You know, years ago with learning theory, there was so much about, well, I'm a visual learner, I'm a kinesthetic learner, I'm an auditory learner. And the truth is that we are all multimodal learners. Some of us may have an inclination to a visual learning way, but the truth is that we learn best by receiving and reflecting in different ways. The theory is called dual coding theory, where if you are seeing what you are talking about, you are able to integrate and think about it in new ways. And what is even more impactful is when you're working with a group, collaboration, it is multiplication, but sometimes it is complication. When many people are bringing disparate ideas or different thoughts or sharing more ideas into the group, we can sometimes lose track of some of the information. And so when the group is collaborating and sharing together visually, we're able to hold on to more information and see the meaning and the metaphors come to life. And so, of course, using the seven-eyed model to frame the work we're doing, for the metaphor question that comes up so many times in supervision, we play it out. We really lean into it in this way of experimenting, because really what we're doing is we're creating that metaphor. We are bringing it to life. We are adding colors to it. We are talking about it, and really as a group coming together. We use metaphors so that somebody will understand a little bit better what we may not be able to explain. And so when we are doing it visually in front of us, it allows us to really have an even deeper impact. And so in just a moment, I am going to share the demo, and the activity will look similar to this. This is the full 6-person group activity. You will see lots of different colors. You'll see lots of different cards. It is based on the idea that every journey we go on with our clients, whether it's our supervisee or whether it's a coaching client, it is a unique journey. No two are the same. And we go with them on this journey. And so in supervision, we bring part of that journey into the room, and we share a bit and talk about it and think about what might follow. What am I missing on this journey? What is happening outside of this road that I've been tied to with my client, trying to help them get to where they want to go? What might I be missing out on? And so this idea of this journey that we're on really allows us to think about the engagement. And I'm going to say just a little bit more. So this visual storytelling, we know when we're in a group supervision session, we're going to, let's say there's 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 of us, we're all going to share very briefly about a case, and then 1 or 2 is going to delve much deeper into the case. And so with the idea of visual storytelling, those are eyes 1, 2, and 3, and 4. When we're able to tell the story visually, the group is, like I said before, is going to be better able to follow along on that journey and ask follow-up questions, whether it's contextual or whether it is a process question. And then, of course, as I've shared with I6, whether it is the supervisor's reactions or reflections, and of course, in this style of supervision, it's very collaborative. So it will also be the other group members' reactions and reflections. Sometimes we might get caught up into sharing a view or saying, well, what you should do in this situation, and this, if the case presenter is asking for it, it might be what is needed in the room. But generally, when the group is speaking into the room, when the group is just curious about what is happening before our very eyes, it allows the case presenter to see different perspectives. It allows them to meaning make from their own mind's eye. And you'll see that take place here. And then finally, as I've shared, when we are visually thinking, when we're reflecting visually, 1, it allows us to hold on to more nodes of information, because we can let go of thinking about it in one part of our brain, and because it's already going to remind us before our eyes. But also it's going to stimulate us, and this is some Gestalt theory. It's going to stimulate us between the figure and ground. In Gestalt, we focus on what is figural, what is right before our eyes, and also the ground, what is happening, the I-7, all throughout the system. And so when we are seeing it, especially on this blank white page, we are also able to notice or to ask questions about what we're not seeing. And of course, when we're working in I-7, we're really supporting our clients to see the world systemically, and it really, of course, helps our clients' client. So without further ado, I'm going to share a 30-minute group supervision demo. I'm so honored that the triad agreed to join me, Corey, Judith, and Elzira. I'm ever so thankful. What I realized in the experimentation of this process is that doing this and trying to fit all these things into 30 minutes is really difficult. And so hopefully you will see parts of what I've shared with you and imagine how it will develop deeper with more time, 60 minutes, 90 minutes, to allow that story to build, to allow more metaphors, to allow more questions to come out, and more curiosity around this journey that our case presenter, in this case, Judith, allowed us to follow with her on. And so,
Paul, before you start, just a second.
yes.
Maybe people want to turn off your microphones and cameras so everybody can see just the video. And also maybe want to take some notes, because when we come back from watching this, we're going to take a 5-minute break. And after that, we're going to come back to have small group discussions about what did you learn. So if you want to take some notes, please do that. So when you come back and you work in small groups, you can share with your group what were your key learnings from watching this recording. Okay.
Okay. Give me just one moment. I'm setting this up to. So I also realized as I recorded this that I did not capture the full group in the shared screen. So I asked you to imagine seeing all 4 of us share, even though we were only able to see one person when they're talking. So let's see. Okay. Everybody's able to see that?
Yes.
So welcome, everybody. Thank you so very much for engaging in this visual thinking group supervision activity. It's called Roads, a Coaching Supervision Journey of Reflection. And I'm going to ask you some questions, but I'm actually going to have you respond in the form of one of these road pictures, and then I'm going to have you reflect on the pictures and type some thoughts out in the sticky notes, and I will share where you will do that in just a moment. But before we get started, let's just center ourselves and take a nice deep breath. And know that we may be engaging in some technology for the first time, and that might bring up some stuff for us, but it's okay. We're all learning this fun, interesting process. And the most important thing is that we are creating a reflective space to think, and in this case, to think visually, and use whatever is coming up for us in these images to share more about our case and what we can get out of it. And of course, to talk about where we are with our clients on this journey and who we need to become to help them get to where they want to go. So are you all ready?
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Yep. Sure. So then let's add flexibility
Sure. All right.
and spontaneity.
Oh, now I have to remember how to spell spontaneity.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, this is that's close. I think the A and the E are
It's a
mixed.
safe environment.
Thank you. I just tripped with grace. Okay. How are we feeling about that contract? All right.
Good.
So this is a roads activity, and each one of you have a sandbox. And I showed you, I'm gonna release control here. I showed you where your sandbox was in your outline. And I told you about all these different roads. And these different roads bring up so much for me. Hopefully, as you scroll through them, they bring up things for you as you think about your case. And I asked each one of you to think of a case that you want to reflect upon. And we're going to choose one after everybody shares a little bit. And then at the end, we're all individually going to share a second road about what follows and where to next. And so you'll see there are 2 blank squares in the top of your sandbox, and I'm just circling Alzira's sandbox here. And so when I ask you to share your first road, and Alzira, I'm going to just zoom into yours right now. Go ahead and place that first road here. And then everybody's going to describe their road in about 8 words, and then continue the reflecting on where they are with their client on this journey. And so you have a couple squares to continue that reflection. Write as much or as little as you'd like, but when we do present each of us individually our cases, we're just going to share the road and those 8 words. Any questions right now?
So Paul, we pick a road and we drag it on over and then we complete the 2 boxes.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're going to take about 5 minutes right now. And so go ahead, and if you ever need to scroll all the way back, that's the number 1 where it says roads activity. And then to get back to your sandbox, go ahead and click on your name. And then, like I said, you can scroll around the images, or you can select them one by one on the outline below. So we're going to take about 5 minutes to do that now. Any questions? All right. Let's reflect on our journey that we're on with our clients. All right. All right, welcome back, everybody. We're going to individually share very briefly about our cases. Like I said, you're going to have your own takeaways for yourself. Maybe things come up for you as we share a little bit about the specific case that we're going to delve in a bit deeper. But this is an opportunity for you to reflect on your case now, and then we'll close out and you'll have a moment to continue reflecting on that case. But for now, we're going to go around, and I'm gonna start with Alzira here. So yeah, tell us a little bit about the road card that you picked and those 8 words.
Yeah, the card I picked is number 1 because it represents my client. He's the head of the company. He's the general director of pharmaceutical company. So my what I want to reflect is on the relation I established with these people that is, you know, like the top of companies, C-level executives, that kind of people that sometimes I feel a little bit like uncomfortable or asking myself, what's the value I deliver to these clients?
Thank you, Azura. And Judith, we'll go to you next. So,
Okay,
yeah.
can you hear me okay?
Mhm.
Okay, so this is about me working with a client that's very exacting. I chose my tile because I feel like I want to get to the light, but I feel like I'm in so much gray sometimes. And so we start out and we've got this dark road because she's very exacting with the words and interpretations. And it's one of the few clients that I always get questions like, could you ask me that in another way?
Okay. Right. Corey.
My client was, I put down a little more than 8 words, sorry.
No.
It's hard for me to write non-sentences, but
No worries. No
client,
worries. Around 8 words, no limitation.
client was confused on, and he still is confused on whether to increase his attention to his work or to his family.
Man.
And where I'm at, we're at a midpoint in our journey. The first session, he didn't really engage, and he explained just how perfect he was, what a just great asset to the company he was.
I don't see that in this picture.
And then by the third call, he shared his lifeline, which showed his highs and his lows and his separation and etc. And now he has a new person in his life, and he's really concerned about his children, and he's not sure where to focus his attention on his new position, or is he comfortable where he was at and focusing more on his family?
Okay. So thank you, all three of you, for picking that card. Where, like I said, you're all going to have an opportunity at the end to reflect on another card around another road around what follows or where to next. But now we're going to delve a bit deeper into one case, and Judith was kind enough to share that she would go and reflect a bit deeper. So I'm panning back and actually let me take control of everybody and pan back a bit. So now, Judith, if you noticed, I
see
copied
you
your
moved me.
card and I moved you into the center. And so, yeah.
Yikes.
Where this is a safe space.
I know. It's so nice to be back with my original starting group.
Yeah. Okay.
I love my current group too. I feel like I'm back home now. So
yeah. Okay. Well, we're going to help you and through you, hopefully help your client get to whatever home means for them as well.
Oh, that's beautiful, Paul. Thanks.
So if you can, go ahead and share a little bit more about this client, a bit more context so we all can understand. Take a few minutes to do that.
Okay. Let me know when a few minutes is up, okay?
Sure.
So this client I've known for, I guess, 2 to 3 years now. 2 I met her, I became her program coach when she was actually going through a coach training program. So I was she picked me as a program coach. And we started off the relationship and really were able to build a great relationship together. And then kind of midpoint, excuse me, midpoint through, she picked up on this phrase through her coach training where it was okay for a client to say, well, I'm not, would you ask me that another way? And so she's very bright. She's an accomplished certified project manager. Through the coaching, I helped her through job interviews and things like that, where she got promoted.
Awesome.
Super excited for her, watching her grow into her new role as a first-time supervisor. And I noticed that when I ask a very wide, open-ended question, that when she doesn't have an answer right away, she'll say, could you ask me that another way? And the first couple times I was a little caught off by it. It surprised me because she is actually a very deep thinker. So it almost didn't make sense to me that she needed it asked another way. And now as I've come to learn her and understand her more deeply, I understand a little bit better how it comes up. But I'm wondering how I can best work with her, because honestly, sometimes when she says that, I have this little saboteur kind of telling me that, well, how come you didn't, ask the question in a way that she would understand? So I'm feeling a little bit of blame every once in a while. And it interferes for a minute, maybe not a minute, but it interferes for a moment. But as I'm talking about it now, I'm realizing that it does linger. So I want to better understand how to serve her, and actually how to kind of like knock that thing off my shoulder that whispers that. Do you need anything else?
I'm just curious about what that would give you, and I'll ask the second question after. What would that give you?
It would give me some freedom, Paul, and actually a sense of relief. It's almost as though, when she says, could you ask me that another way? It trips me up, and I have this sense of at first I had a little confusion, and then it became more along the lines of almost insecurity.
Okay. And how could this group, this space support you in that reflection and relief that you're seeking?
I think better understanding, what does it, what emotion or what sense or whatever kind of gets stimulated.
Okay.
That I have that reaction. I don't have it as much anymore, and it's not happening as much lately. But every time I go to talk with this client, I have it in the back of my mind, and it makes me feel like I'm not 100% there with them. And that bothers me.
Okay. Thank you, Judith.
Sure.
And Corey, Alzira, now it's an opportunity for us. Normally, we would be curious about something or potentially ask a question of the space. And of course, Judith in this case, but as we are visually thinking, what we're going to do is we're going to ask a question visually. And so Judith shared a bit about what was coming up for her, and maybe something was coming up for you as you were listening to her. And if you can, go ahead and find any one of these roads. It could be a road that's already been chosen as well. And Alzira, you go ahead and place your road into position 1, which is directly below Judith's initial card. And Corey, you place it in position 2. And if you need to get a little bit closer, is that, oops.
I copied one by a mistake. Can you please delete it on the left?
No worries. Just go ahead and grab the one that you want, and we will figure out the rest. Okay. All right. So I'm going to zoom in a bit, and so now we'll give Judith a moment to just reflect on these different cards, and now very, very.
Can you zoom in a little bit for me, Paul?
Oh yes. Oh, I apologize. I should have summoned you all back in again. Are you seeing it now?
Oh yes. Oh my goodness.
Okay. And so, Alzira, if I can have you go first, and then Corey, and I'll share just a few words, or just what was coming up for you around this card. And Judith, after we all go, you can, if any one of them, if you want to know any more about one of them, you can just let me know which card, and we'll move it into what follows.
Okay.
So Alzira, yeah.
Yeah, the words that came to me, and that's why I chose this card, is angry, being mad, and also control. So I think this represents the emotion I feel while I was listening to what Judy shared to us.
Okay. Corey.
I heard 2 things, and both of them dealt with the way that Judith holds the system of the conversation with the client, and the way that Judith holds the system of herself with the client. So that's really the kind of the holding of the road, and it's a gentle hold. You don't see it squeezing it or anything like that. And it's also the part of her holding the system with the client where she can ask, well, from what you heard, what would be your answer? Just to let that out. And because you know, who knows where you could explore.
Yeah. And my card, the third one, is just that road untaken. But if you look a little bit closer and see behind those trees, it's actually it's not the most pleasant of roads down there. There's a white chalk outline, and I'm just wondering, what is this client not saying? What is she trying to hide? From, and I'll leave it there. Anything coming up for you, Judith, as you hear us reflect into the space?
Yeah, you know, it's amazing how 3 people hear 3 different things that are so different. And then when I look at Alzira's tile, what comes up for me is so different than what she shared.
What are you seeing in this? Can I move this tile next into the road? Is that okay?
I don't know if that's the tile that resonates with me the most.
Okay.
But I can share with you what I see in it.
Please. Yeah, go ahead.
So You know how you talk about, a watch pot never boils? That's actually what I saw in this first. And it's like, oh. And so what it spoke to me first was, I wonder what I'm watching and paying attention to that I don't need to.
Mm.
And then when I looked more closely, I saw the fire and I thought, oh, what am I afraid of? And then I saw the steam and I was like, you know what? I think that's just a little bit of the emotion that I'm feeling, just like the letting go of why I'm worried about this, because it made me realize that I had a sense of worry about me. And then when I moved to Corey's tile, when I first saw Corey's tile, I'm like, the vision of it really resonated with me is the question came up of, why am I trying to hold this client the way I'm holding them? What am I trying to protect them from? And then what do I need to let go of to allow them to embrace their fullest self? And then when we went to your tile, at first I thought about, the Robert Frost, the road less traveled. And then I saw that little, white outline and I thought, is that something dead there? And I was like, I don't want to go down that road. But I don't want to take the other road. And I noticed in your road that there seemed to be wind blowing the trees to me. And so I decided to embrace the movement and the wind in the trees to help me better understand what wind and what movement I needed to work with for the client.
Okay.
So all three of them spoke to me in such amazing ways. Thank you, everybody.
So Judith, I pose this to you and I pose this to all of us. What's next for you and this client? And Alzira, Judith, Corey, what's next for you and your case? So in the remaining time, I'm going to just control the screen for everybody here and then release. Go ahead and find your second card and place it in the second position. And then just reflect on what follows, where to next. And of course, feel free to pick a card that's already been chosen. All right. I'm going to summon everybody. Thank you all. You guys are all ready to go? Yeah, okay. All right. So Judith, we will have you go third. Alzira, Corey, who would like to go first? Oh, Corey, both of you, yeah, you're on mute. Oh.
Yeah, I can go first if you like.
Sure. So I'm zooming in here. We're all looking at Corey's green sandbox. So yeah, what follows, where to next, and what are some takeaways?
Well, what follows is a more defined path than the first, but it has a little healing to go, has a little healing to get there. And so I put down what follows is to client, needs to realize there may be a healing path that you can choose, and it may be a totally different path than which encompasses both family and work. in the same thing. In my takeaways and learnings, I just about finished it. It's in process of offering a choice and a possible creation.
Okay. And as you look at that second card, what is the feeling that you are wanting to take away with you as you see this client next?
To realize that he, as well as almost every one of my other clients, everybody has a history and has a pain point, and this is just letting it bubble to the surface and letting you know it isn't going to heal immediately, but we're on the path to.
Thank you. Okay. Well, Sarah.
I wrote that I will just open the space for my clients and let them do the magic. Feeling myself more like this magician or so that just creates the space, and everything else it's on the client's responsibility.
Thank you. And Judith.
I chose this road because I realized that, I sense that maybe I'm doing a little bit of judging, not only of myself, but a little bit of judging of my client as well. So I want to open up the exploration and release some of that judgment, which can also be a little bit of controlling. So Alzira kind of nailed that early on. To open up the possibility for having an excellent adventure together and the limitlessness that comes from having fun and fun exploration and adventure. And my key learnings was just keep it simple. And you know what? Have compassion. If the client doesn't understand, and I know, like I said, the last couple sessions it hasn't come up. If it does come up, decide whether it's time to be curious and just ask. Or maybe this is work for me to just let it go and exercise a greater degree of patience, love, compassion, and understanding.
Well, thank you, Judith. And I thank all of you for allowing this process, this journey to unfold in this different way of reflecting on your cases and seeing this journey take different twists and turns, and I just want to thank you all for leaning into this activity, and with that we will end.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Corey, Judith, Alzira, for being part of this experience. I think it was very rich experience. Why don't we take a 5-minute break, and when we come back, we will discuss what we learned from the demo. And thank you, Paul, for making that happen. Okay, so let's be back in 5 minutes.
So for purposes of recording, I using technology is so outside the paradigm that I live in. I was so seduced by it and wondered how effective would it be, because people were into the technology and the jazz and coolness of it. But what I saw is the simplicity of just a few questions and what it opens for people. And I keep coming back to that theme in my own supervision is just keep it simple. It doesn't have to be an MCC session or da 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 da. Just keep it simple, and that simplicity allows people really to bring forward their own reflections and have their own insights. That's all for me.
Oh yeah, there's a, so I've used Mural before, and it's great sometimes, and then other times I get kind of lost in its sauce. Like where are we on the board? We need to summon people to the right place. It's like it's where the technology, I think, can undermine the thinking. What I think it does well is it gives people the opportunity in a virtual experience to really wrangle with the visual and to be somewhat tactile, because you're like actually and actively moving things around. So it triggers, I would argue, probably, I mean, not a neuroscientist here, but my guess is it triggers something similar in our brain to actually sitting there with cards and moving them around. That said, I don't know whether it was my morning and the fact that I had coffee and didn't have my cereal or what the issue was, but I was so impatient the whole time. And it's like I was having trouble dropping in to that sense of like that magical space where the mural disappears, or like what you're manipulating disappears, and you just kind of are in the container. And I felt like some of it may have been that the technology was getting in the way for me. It was creating this kind of barrier to accessing that. And then I was also thinking about parallel process, because I was like super impatient. And right off the bat, when Judith was sharing her story, I got super judgmental. I was like, Judith, stop being so judgmental. And so at the end, but I didn't even recognize it. I was just feeling, it was like a feeling. It was like, ah. And I didn't recognize it until she said at the end, you know, I realized like I need to, I don't know, she said slow down or something like that. And I need to be like, I need to question my own judgment. And I was like, yes. And then I was like, oh shit, that's me too. So I don't know whether some of what I was experiencing was actually coming from her description of that interaction with the client and experiencing kind of vicariously her impatience and judgment, because that's sort of what I was feeling throughout the process. And it made me wonder, is there a way to give people like an outlet with this, where they can choose a picture to represent themselves in the moment, so that you could kind of incorporate the I6, you know, into that, where you're sort of saying, this is me right now and I'm owning it. This is how I'm feeling. Because that might help. That may have helped me disentangle a little bit. Okay, I'm done.
Well, I echo the sentiments. So obviously, I'm attracted by technology, as Amel was saying, but I was thinking how Paul can handle, you know, all what is happening in the room, what is happening inside him, plus the technology. And so that's definitely something that I was thinking during the process. Then I appreciate the fact of having limited choices, as Ali mentioned, but I also like, as Ali, you know, being free. So I miss that freedom of, you know, not knowing what will happen and what is the image the client can create. So I'm thinking in a group is, yeah, you need to have probably limited choice. But at the same time, I was thinking, oh, what if they could design the role themselves? What would it be? You know, how would it be? Which color they would put in? And
So yeah, so that's what I was thinking. So I catch my mind going, you know, in that situation and think, oh, what would I have done there, you know? So but I could see the benefit of you know, the group focusing on emotions, and also on, you know, on the, you know, so Corey was more about what the person was seeing, perspectives, while Zero was more on emotions. So I could see the benefit again of a group which highlight different areas of reflections. Yeah. And I will, and I had a question. I know you want to be silent, but I would love, Paul, to know, you know, what was, you know, what else in looking at the session you would have added to the session about yourself, your.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, just to speak to what Mural said, and what I find fascinating when using visual thinking, and especially with this in this hands-on way, which Ali, I completely agree. I don't have the neuroscience knowledge that like Jeff Nally has, but I've researched enough, you know, to know that when we're engaging our hands in this way, it is as close to being there as possible. But speaking to what Meryl said about this idea of the simplicity, I find that when I use, and I realize this activity it's one of the heavier activities, meaning there's a lot of stuff, and it's still an ongoing experiment, if you will. But what I notice in using visual thinking, using whiteboards, is that there is so few questions asked because so much is going on behind our eyes that you almost, I mean, literally you can just not even ask a question, just put an image up there, and a whole discussion will come out of that. I also am just having to manage knowing that this is going to be recorded and played is like a third layer. When that is removed, I'm much more present, and the user, the facilitator, supervisor, because that's like, it's like 2 layers of work, and I actually don't enjoy it because I'm thinking about you all watching it. I'm not there, which is not a good way to be a supervisor, to be very honest.
It's so funny because I'm currently thinking about how, like, Judith's not here, so she's going to be watching this. So, like, Judith, I was judging you. I'm so sorry. That was me. That wasn't you. That was me. Love you.
Oh.
Definitely, we could sense your passion while you were using it and how you were using it, your passion for the tool. And you can see you are the father of it, you know, the creator. You have the sense of being the creator.
What's next for this? I mean, where do you see this going for you in your practice, especially given the, you know?
Yeah, you know, what's funny is I've been so have you all had an opportunity to, I thought that you all had an opportunity to engage with the Metaphor Magic Box prior to this. I even messaged Lily and she was like, oh yeah, feel free to talk about it. And I was like, oh, they must have all done it. So next month you will see that what I refer to as the analog, the real magic box. Lily and I have worked together to create a virtual metaphor magic box that I am really passionate about. It's so much more simple. And to Rosella, you can create, literally you map out like the 7 eyes and you can create with charms and move around. So it's kind of like constellation work with 7-eyed model and mapping out charms and changing the color, and so that's what I'm passionate about right now. I didn't want to present that today because I yeah, because Lily has her thing, and I wanted to use the roads exercise. The honest to goodness truth is I don't know how long this roads exercise is going to last. It may be just too much.
Yeah, I do want to ask a question. I have watched the Magic Box demo, and that's I can get what you're saying about the simplicity, and just congratulations for you and Lily and the innovation that you're bringing with a 7-eye model and the this and the that.
So much of this is hers. I did some similar things, and then when I came across her work, and then I was like, oh my goodness, it's like and I was like, can I make a virtual version? I mean, this was last year when everything was virtual, so she of course obliged.
Yeah,
I love that.
So in a hour-long session where there's much more time, is there a space for what Ali says, where people can other participants can bring in 5 and 6?
Oh yeah, that's what was. So if you're not like I broke up the video a few times, but towards the end I broke it up specifically to share. This is where in a 60-90 minute session where Judith, we stay on Judith, we add more cards, we have her bring a card, we have her bring herself in a card, and we focus there like we would do in a group supervision session that wasn't recorded for a class, and spend a solid 30-40 minutes. And so that's where it really, and that's also this idea of being able to hold on to more nodes of information is helpful, because there's so much going on. You don't have to remember it all. Sometimes we get lost into the case presenter's case, and so when you can see it all and then it plays out on the screen, it's really powerful.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see definitely in the presentation of the case, the images help to make it really, really short and concise. So I can see a huge benefit there. Yeah.
It's like it allows you to jump in your thinking. Instead of kind of traverse something, you can jump over it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's powerful stuff.
Yeah. So who is going to report?
Of course.
I nominate Ali.
Ali
support.
Will be like your coffee.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
All right?
Okay, let's hear from the conversation that you had in the small groups. Who would like to start? Yes, Keith, go ahead. And then Clara.
Okay, so I was with Lisa and Sraban and Marie Pierre, and so wonderful conversation. All agreed that watching this, it's amazing the amount of information that this brings into the conversation. I was sharing that as I was watching it, because I so love the road concept, that I could feel myself. I could feel all of this thinking going on, this thinking and feeling going on in my head, that if I had to put it all into words, it would take a long time. And yet for me, I felt it was very much captured in some of those images. So I think, Paul, you had talked about that at the beginning of how much information we can hold on to in our head when we're looking at things through the world of imagery. Marie Pierre talked about it takes you somewhere. She experienced a lot of emotion as she was watching the video. Lisa talked about it allows for vulnerability, that an image leads to experiencing something different that you didn't even know was there. And then we had a really interesting conversation about who, like our own perception of who this might work for or not work for. In terms of the types of folks that we work with. And we kept going, like we started with, I think, and my three colleagues, please add, chime in. The conversation started with, I think, well, we don't know if this is for everybody. And as we had the conversation, we moved a little bit closer to maybe it is, and that just different people are going to have some different reactions to doing this. And we talked about like maybe how soon in a supervisory relationship you would pull something like this out. Would you want your supervisee to know ahead of time this was going to be something that you were going to do, instead of they walking into a supervision session and, oh, by the way, we're going to do this today? And the last thing I'll share just really quickly, because I shared this in the group because this was so in my head and heart as I was watching this. My father, who passed away about 20 years ago, later in his life, he struggled with depression, and that resulted in a week's hospitalization at one time. My father was a civil engineer. He was a man of few words, even less emotion, not very self-aware, I think, and would not, not anyone you would think of as creative or artistic or things like that. In the hospital, they engaged him in art therapy. And I have this vivid memory of going to visit him and seeing this picture he created. Again, civil engineer, was the head of highway maintenance. And it was this picture of a road and it's falling apart, and a bridge that was falling apart. And he talked about how meaningful that experience was for him. And to this day, it was so not him to do something like that. And that has always stuck with me about him. Do we attempt to engage people in this, even if we think that's probably not going to be them?
Thank you, Keith, for bringing this and sharing your experience, your personal experience. It's really thought-provoking. And Paul, I'm wondering, what is your reaction to this, since you are the one who is an expert on
I'm first off, I'm just so touched, Keith, for sharing that. You know, the very truth, briefly, is that while I want to believe this is for everybody, for some people it's just not. It's just too much. And this particular exercise, I'm aware, it's heavy. There's a lot of stuff going on. I have much more simpler mural activities that are a lot easier. But also, this is, I think, when we do create that space to play and be open and be vulnerable, so many beautiful things could happen. And so I think, you know, if we think that this person, we want to use a new tool with whatever it may be, you know, lean into your own vulnerability to try it. And if it fails, then it's part of the process. And we talk about that, right? We talk about, you know, we show up as the supervisor and share our own failures.
And there is another part of Keith's question that I think is that for every coach that you are working as a supervisor, but then is that for every supervisor? I wonder here if everybody feels comfortable in trying new things, like here, technology. We're going to be using other techniques, body work, using your body. Some people are very uncomfortable bringing their body and doing body working. And here we have an expert on the topic, Mural, who is part of the class. So it's interesting how we also relate to different techniques and strategies and methodology differently based on our background. John, you have a question or comment?
Actually, I was going to report back on our group when you're
okay. Go ahead. So time to move on.
I'd love to. One of the pieces that we leaned into a little bit was the fact that sometimes pieces like this can almost become the center of what's happening instead of actually and how this was not the center of focus. The mural wasn't the center of focus, but actually the participants were. And we delved in and got to question Alzira just a little bit. Alzira and Cookie were in my group. A little bit about how Paul set that up and how he enabled that and how he gave instructions first so that they weren't spending the first 10 minutes trying to figure out how to move their mouse to do the right pointer or whatever. So I really personally appreciated that a lot because it would be really important. Also, Alzira talked about and led us into a little bit of a discussion about how this really touched the systemic pieces that were present. And Alzira, do you want to share a little bit more about that?
Sure, John. Thank you. It was a really powerful conversation, and I enjoyed it very much with Cookie, John, and Larissa. I guess she just have to left. But what I realized when I heard the recording, that I didn't realize that when we were making the exercise, it was that at the very end there was something that was common in all the cases we brought, and my interpretation is that it was around control. I brought that word, and then Judy first said she didn't connect with that, and then she said, oh no, I do connect with that, and I found there is something around control. But I saw that there was like losing the control. In my case, what the second card I put, it was like letting things happen and losing, I mean, like some control. And I also saw that in Corey. I don't know, I'm talking for him, but he can say if he's okay with that. But I can see that it was something systemic, that it was repeating in all the cases, that we supervisor were we wanted to have like all the threads in the hand. I don't know if that is correct in English, but at the end it was like trusting the process, leaving the control, and exploring a little bit more.
Yeah.
Paul, you wanna maybe co-facilitate this with me, because you may want to have some comments and reactions to people's comments.
Yeah, I think what I shared before the demo, and then shared a slide towards the end, is that so much, I think there's so much more depth to what could happen in a much longer session. I mean, honestly, like we literally, to use more analogies, we literally scratched the surface of what Judith's journey was on, and the opportunity to share more about what was coming up for her internally in the somatic around seeing these images. I think it's what I wish we had more time to do, and I'll just leave it at that. But the comments that are being shared are really helpful to me too, because like I said, this is experimental, and hopefully a learning experience. It is for me.
Thank you, Paul. And I want to share briefly in one conference that they were using also technology, but that one on Mural was something else. And for a few minutes, I couldn't get into it, and it produced a lot of anxiety. So that can be a possibility too, that if you're working with that and that's something new for you and you don't know how to make it, and you may feel frustrated and you're not understanding what to move. So the way that is set up makes a big difference. So sometimes in advance, letting people know or showing a video about how the technology or the methodology works, or something that helps people to prepare. So here also, Paul, is key how you set up the group. And any comments about that?
Yeah, if I am going to engage with new users into this, we do spend 10 minutes, and I try to keep it as close to the activity in time as possible, but also separate it as much as possible. So, you know, the group, and I'm again so thankful for all of them that came, we did engage and learn and made sure that they felt comfortable. So at least some of that anxiety could dissipate, and then really centered ourselves and went into the group. But there is what I like to say with Mural, there's a short but very steep learning curve, and then once you get it, it feels very comfortable for most. Also, Mural and Miro, which is the very similar version, these are the heaviest and most dynamic, most technology. PowerPoint, which most of us know really well, is also really a really great tool, or Jamboard on Google. And so I encourage you, if you have any interest in any of this, go with what you know first, and then if you really like it, then maybe try one of these more dynamic tools. To jump right into Mural right away, unless you have some training, to learn it is a leap. Of course, sometimes leaps are good things.
Yeah, and also the relationship with the facilitator of the exercise. Like if you were working with 3 people that already knew you, that trust you, and it's interesting, that relationship that we have with the professionals we are working help us to diminish that anxiety. That if you don't know who is the person, like in a conference space or setting, but I experienced it, so I can share from my own experience.
What I also briefly want to share is that almost all the time you won't be having it recorded as well. So adding that third layer, it really makes it when it's just you and the group, you know, you're playing in the moment, you're dancing in the moment, and we're collaborating with each other. In fact, the group is helping one another learn together, which actually makes it a powerful experience. What I tried to have all of that removed so that when you saw the demo, you just saw the demo, but it's definitely a
yeah, no, it's definitely, every time you do a demo, it's a challenging thing because you need to perform to some extent, even though there is a part of you say, this is not about performing, this is not about performing, there is another part, you need to do a great job, you need to do a great job. And I know because I did a demo for today, later I am sharing a demo on coaching for my coaching class. So I was there this week. And by the way, it's a really interesting session. If you can make it today at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, I am sharing a coaching demo that I have done this week for the coaching program. So if you can make it, please join us. Clara, you want to go next? We cannot hear you for some reason.
There. Paul, on a personal note, I'm so excited. I do a lot of work with painting, some of you might know. So when I get people together, and it's like, I cannot do that now, it's painting and dancing. So the idea of using Mural for this, and the fact that I like the idea of journey in everything we do, to me was perfect. So thank you for bringing that up. As an answer to what the other group mentioned, is it for everyone? Paulette, we were with Paulette, Rhonda, and Sankey, and Paulette was, okay, my cognitive part that prevails. And she was able to go into emotions and dance with it to the point, and I need to say this, Paulette, because I felt it was beautiful. She's always on the dot with everything. And she said, I think I missed something. Something happened and I was not aware. So my feeling, Paulette, was you were so much into it that it's, okay, let go of the thinking. The fact that 3 people were into it, I need to look at how we do that with painting, but that 3 people were working on their metaphors, and the ease you brought, although they knew you, the fact you said, okay, we're all learning here and you can move this here and there. And it felt playful. And that's your Lego background, I guess, definitely. The fact that 3 people could work on their own, like Paulette said, their own stuff. It was not just one stuff that was brought, but 3 people working, focusing on one more than the others, probably. And yet, they all took away something for their own case. And maybe, Sankey, you want to add something regarding images and what's happening nowadays.
Yes, thank you. So I was saying in the group that now we are in this technological way of coaching. So the image is very, very important nowadays. And playing with cars is it's a very nice way of making the client, the coachee, come out from another way. Because as Paulette said, we can be blocked with our mind that we don't know what to say. But when you see the image will show up something from you. So as I said in the group, as when we see a painting, for example, the Mona Lisa, so one people can feel or express something and another people can express another thing. And also I quoted that it's depending on the time of the day or the time of your life that you are watching that painting or that figure, will show up different emotions and perceptions of what you are feeling. That was our impression.
Okay, this is all the power of projection. So here we have two things going on. We have the technology, the mural, and working with images and the projection, how we bring our own meaning to what we're seeing. So Corey, do you want to go next and then Ali?
Sure. Well, I was in a group with CC initially and Gerardo, and I was selected for the talking piece. So, a lot of these things that people have been bringing up, we spoke a little bit about, but some of the bigger ones were we brought up parallel process, and we're also initially was curious of the parallel process going on between the supervisees in the group, and as well as the parallel process going on with Judith and her client. So that was kind of interesting. And then we went one further where we were looking at the systemic at the I7 on the group of supervisors to see what was aligning with that group. And we were curious if there could be maybe another box to be able to put in to that mural board where you could have that other, what's going on between the entire group, and select some photos and put a couple words and things like that. So that was really interesting. And then Gerardo, he mentioned this allowed playing, right? It allowed that childlike energy to come out, and via that playing in a different sense, it's really right brain, especially when you're looking at pictures and photos and selecting them out, and then you can share at a new level too. So that was really interesting. So thank you, Paul, and thank you the rest of the group. And if I missed anything, I apologize, and the rest of the group can come on.
Thank you, Corey. I think that what you're bringing to is something that somebody mentioned before, systemically, what was happening in terms of parallel process and what will happen systemically between the participants too. So that's an interesting exploration too. Ali?
I'm going to try to figure out what hasn't been said yet. A lot of what our group talked about, I felt like, was in some ways the paradoxes of using technology, so that it can be both a catalyst for accessing emotion and also an impediment. It can be a container in and of itself, and it can also prevent you from dropping into that container. So there was a lot of reflections kind of on both sides of that spectrum. And I began to wonder kind of after our group about bias, actually, and if or inequity. And if we somehow, in doing this in some groups, might introduce a certain amount of inequity, just in the sense of some people are going to be more comfortable with technology, for instance. Some people have access to higher bandwidth, literally, and will be able to get through the mural more ably. It's less of a problem one-on-one because you can kind of address it. But in a group setting, it made me wonder about what happens when you have a group of 5 and 4 of them are cruising right along, but you've got one person who can't keep up with the rest of the group? And what if that one person just, doesn't have the same background or access to the technology? So that's kind of what's coming up for me. And it's based a little bit on personal experience. I used Mural once for facilitation, and we had our chief clinical officer just couldn't get through it. And her opinion was so important, but she got so frustrated and so upset that it just undermined the whole group flow. So yeah, I'm actually going to turn that back over to the group. How do we navigate that?
There is another element there, is toleration to frustration. How do you tolerate and how do you manage when you're frustrated? And if you can let that go, or you stay there. Like I remember when I was sharing my experience, like I was frustrated in this conference for a few minutes, and then I centered and I was able to make it work. But you're bringing a good point. People have different reactions. I even heard in your group, somebody also shared that technology and working with technology is not the first place to go. So Paul, any reaction to this?
Just so spot on. I mean, Ali, what that is true. I mean, so much of these things come up, and we have to think about it through this lens. And I mean, I know for me personally, I will not, if I feel like somebody, after I do it a little brief introduction, if I feel like somebody is really going to have it not be helpful to them, then I will switch gears. If there's a little bit of anxiety or emotion coming up or frustration, then that's just, as I love to say, grist for the mill, right? We bring that into the room, we talk about it, we talk about how, if that is a parallel process of what may be going on with other things outside with their client as well. But I totally, what you're saying, I would agree with wholeheartedly.
I'd also like to invite Paul to talk about what he's working on next, because that was something that our group talked about and was fascinating. So.
Well, that's when Lily shares her metaphor magic box, then maybe I can show up that day and share a little bit more after that. But it's something that Lily has allowed me to collaborate with her in creating a virtual metaphor magic box. So start with the analog and maybe try out the digital version after.
Great. Well, it's time. Cookie has a comment, and then we need to wrap up. And Paul, I may ask you to finish anything you want to say before we go. Any thoughts we want to say? Let's hear first from Cookie, and then you will have your last word.
I just want to thank Paul. I've been watching several of these, and the most important part in response to Ali's point, which was very important, is that it's building up. So because we trust Paul and he has a very open and accessible way of working, then he builds from simple to more complicated, and then he can go back. And as we build that, you gain more access, and that becomes easier, because at the beginning, Mural was very complex for me, but it's sort of a process. So thank you, Paul, for simplifying this. And I strongly recommend everybody watch the Metaphor Magic Box. It's outstanding.
Cookie, my spokesperson, said it. I couldn't have said it any better. So thank you, Cookie. And thank you all, and thank you to the group that participated, Corey, Judith, and Elzer. I'm forever grateful. And thank you, Damian.
No, thank you, Paul. Thank you for your support. I was trying to convince Paul to present at the conference coming up next year, the Coaching Supervision Conference. I still need to do more work on it, but I am working on it. So thank you, Paul, again for being here today. So I want to thank everybody who joined us, all of our guests, and from the participants of the class. Let's take 5 more minutes. I want to talk about logistics, what's coming up, and everybody else. Thank you very much for joining us, and look forward to seeing you in our next activities. Well, a couple of things that I can share now can be interesting for everybody. That was coming up in the next few weeks. I was sharing that today, by any chance you're available at 4 p.m. I'm going to be sharing a recording of the demo of the coaching session, if you can make it. Then next week on Tuesday, we have the Asian Coaching Supervisors Network in the evening. It's 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And for people here who are in Asia, Anojli, Savan, it will be great if you can join and be part of that. It's going to be focusing on group supervision again. It's the same session that we did for the America's Coaching Supervision Network. The same person, Catherine Downing, is going to come and share about the research she has done on group supervision. So I highly recommend, if you are not able to come to the meeting, and if you are in the West Coast, to come. For people in Argentina, East Coast is in the middle of the night. I don't think I will ask you to come, but we are going to be recording it. Okay, so it's going to be the recording too. And what else is coming up? So we have the demo today, the the Asian Coaching Supervisors Network on Tuesday. For people who speak Spanish here, Ceci Alcira, Monday, we have the demo for the class in Spanish. So Alicia Agüero is going to be sharing a group supervision demo. So if you can make it, it's at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 3 Mexico, 5 Argentina, if you can make that. And on Wednesday, we have a Spanish-speaking supervisor network, and Ingela from Mexico is coming to talk about humor and supervision. If you can make it, it's at 1 p.m. And I know Marie-Pierre, you also speak Spanish, so you're invited to participate. And anybody else who speaks Spanish here who wants to come and participate, you're welcome. Cookie. Any other announcement? Am I missing anything in terms of announcement? Gerardo is helping me with some of my social media. I don't think I am missing anything for now, but let's...
Any opportunity for supervision in the future?
We have a training starting next month. We have in 2 weeks, on September 8th, we start this cohort 15, and we have 12 people, so we're in a good place, but it would be nice to have more participants. So if you can think of anybody who may be a good candidate, we still have 2 weeks to start. So if you can think of anybody who can be a good candidate to participate, sometimes some of the people you're supervising, sometimes the people have never had supervision before, they start as supervisees and then they say, okay, that's something that I may want to do. And the requirement is that they need to have at least 500 hours of experience. They need to be at least a PCC level participant. So if you can think of anybody, I would really appreciate your referrals. So that's coming up, that's important. And with that, in terms of the program, next week, you're meeting with your groups to practice group supervision. So this is what's coming up. So remember, next week, you're meeting in the rooms of Lily, Alicia, or Susie. So you're going to be meeting with them, and you're going to be practicing, and a couple of you are going to be group supervisors, and a couple of you are going to be bringing cases. So everybody should know whether you're related to that. And then the following session, when we come back in September 9th, we're going to be talking about neuroscience and supervision. And I wanted you to watch the recording from Jeff. So before you come, please watch that recording. We're going to be discussing that recording and working with that recording. And the following session, we are going to be having, we're talking about somatic coaching, working with the body and interventions with the body related to how we can be creative doing that. And Mural is going to be doing a session next month for ICF Los Angeles chapter, special interest group that I lead. So I want to invite everybody to join Mural to this session. It's going to be Wednesday, September 15th, 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You want to write that down in your calendars. And if you are not a member of the chapter, you need to pay, I think, $10, $15, something like that. You can keep the payment and you can get CCUs too. But you don't